Imagine a world where you can get into a top IIT by clearing the JAM exam without even touching almost half of the syllabus. Sounds like a lie, right? Well, it's not. This is why understanding the weightages of different topics under different subjects is the most important part that you fail to acknowledge in your preparation journey. That's why I'm here to help you out. Welcome to Jam Prep by Examplify, and today we are going to discuss the different weightages of different subjects and the high impact topics based on trends and analysis of the previous year papers. So, let us begin. So, before we get to the actual subject wise weightages, let us just take a quick look at an overview of the JAM exam. So we know that the duration of the JAM exam is 3 hours, right? And we can see here that there are three sections in the JAM exam. Okay, so the first section is section A, where you get 30 questions which are of 50 marks. Okay, so right now we are just looking at the weightages of the three sections. And section B, as you can see, is of 20 marks, and section C carries 30 marks. So now let us move on and look at each of these sections in a little more depth, which is that the section A, which has question number 1 to 30, which means that a total of 30 questions and 50 marks. From question number 1 to 10, it carries 1 marks per question, which means that there are 10 1 markers. And after that, it has 20 2 markers. Okay, so making a total of 30 questions, which only the section A has negative marking. I have said this time and time again. And for the 1 markers, obviously it is one third of 1 mark, and for 2 markers it is one third of 2 marks, which is two third or 0.67. That is negative marking. So that is why we have to be a little more careful. That is the point of the negative marking, right? In section B and section C, you can be careless. Even if you do not know the answer, you can still try your best and you can make a guess. I have gotten many questions right, or I won't say many, I have gotten some questions right just by guessing in these two sections. And you can do that without any penalty, right? So the jam, what the jam examiners are doing by this essentially is that they are actually encouraging you to at least attempt all of the questions in section B and C. Okay, so now let us look at section B. It has 10 questions again from 31 to 40, and these are all 2 markers with no negative marking, and these are MSQs as opposed to the MCQs in section A where only one option was right. Now more than one option can be right. Multiple select questions. You are going to be having to select each of the correct options individually. No one is going to tell you which one is right or which one is wrong. Okay, you have to select every option individually. Then finally section C has 20 questions. The first 10 questions from 41 to 50 are 1 markers, and 51 to 60 are 2 markers. So if you ask that is there a difference in the 1 markers or 2 markers, yes, there is a difference of difficulty. And it doesn't mean that the 2 markers are more difficult every time. They might just take you more time to solve them, and sometimes they also take less time. Okay, so we have seen that they do not carry any negative marks. So let us move on to look at the subject wise weightage of the JAM exam. First, we have microeconomics carrying the highest weightage at 27%. Okay, I have said this before as well that micro is going to be the most important subject for you. And sometimes there can be a paper definitely where micro is carrying lesser weightage than some other subject, let's say maths or macro. But usually the trend is that micro will carry the highest weightage. After that, we have seen macro. In some papers, maths was also on top, but the usual case, the general case is that macro has 23% almost based on the past papers. Then maths has 21%. Then we have statistics at 17% and Indian eco at the lowest at about 10 to 12%. 12% is the case in general. Now, let us look at a deeper look at each of the subjects individually. We are going to be looking at the weightages that each of these subjects carry, each of the topics under these subjects, and the previous year questions. I have compiled a list of the previous year questions year by year, so that if you want to solve only the previous year questions of one specific topic, you can just look at this table and you can solve all of those questions that are given under that specific topic. Okay, so we are going to look at that next. First, look at the weightage of microeconomics and the topics under. So what I've done is that this is not a descending order based on marks. This is just the order in which the syllabus is given, right? So consumer theory, you can see that roughly it carries about 6.5 marks in general. Okay, so out of 100 marks paper, 6.5 marks alone is going to consumer theory. Okay, so topics under that, you have seen that price elasticity of demand, Slutsky, then you have indifference curves, right? All of those things under consumer theory are going to be very, very important, because on average this topic alone can get you 6.5 marks, right? Then the most important topic, I would say, in the entire syllabus, I think, producer theory, because there will be numericals out of this topic in the section C and also in section A. Okay, that is the trend. So you can see that cost, the cost analysis part, profit, there will always be questions on this. And even if they are not being directly asked from the producer theory, there will be profit questions in the market structure part. So those are also very closely related to the producer theory part. You have to understand the core concepts of producer theory very well if you want to score well in the micro part. Okay, now moving on, general equilibrium. Again, we will see at least one or two question every year. As you can see that the general case is of 4 marks, right? So you can expect about two questions every year, two markers or something like that. One is mostly a numerical, or sometimes both are numericals, right, where we solve the general equilibrium question using the Edgeworth box. Sometimes we are asked properties or something similar, right? Then market structure, again a very consistently asked and a very important topic. You can see numericals out of this, you can see theory out of this, you can see so many types of questions out of this, that I know that the coverage of market structure alone is very lengthy, but it will be there. You will see a question on it, and it is also one of the easiest parts, I would say. I know that it takes time, but once you understand it, I would say that the properties, the graphs, the numericals, they are very easy, right? Because there is nothing new to add to it. What is there, right? The question will be from what the parts are given. Okay, so there won't be a lot of innovation in the questions itself. That is what I have noticed. Then we have game theory, again one or two questions you can expect. Okay, so something like Nash equilibrium and similar questions we have seen time and time again. Then finally externalities, some this is a topic that is not asked every year, but on average we can say that about 2 marks it is going to carry. So again, you do not have to skip this topic because it is not very difficult, right? But the point of this is that if you have time, if the time allows, then you will obviously cover every topic. But if you are short on time, what you have to do is make a list of the topics that are carrying the highest weightages, and you have to focus on those more. You have to revise those topics more times, because you know that if you get those questions right, then you do not have to worry about the smaller topics. That is the point of it. But obviously my suggestion is always going to be complete the syllabus in its entirety, and then when it comes to revision, you can devote more time to the topics that carry higher weightage. Very simple, right? So let us move on. This is the syllabus. This the topics here that we have already seen the weightage for, these are the subtopics inside of those topics, like preference, utility, obviously budget, choice. Then we have demands, let's key, revealed preference, axioms. So all of these topics are very important, right? Then theory of production and cost, obviously we have seen the importance of this topic. General equilibrium and welfare theories. Then we have market structure, the price discrimination part, and so there are some tough parts in this as well, I understand. But still, this is a very important section, and I will not, definitely not recommend to skip this. Game theory. Now in game theory, what some students do is that they will only study If they are confused in game theory, then what they do is that they just study the Cournot, Bertrand, and all those parts from the oligopoly. So they basically skip the Nash equilibrium and similar topics. But I would say that you should do that because it is not very difficult. It is like the simplest part of game theory once you understand it. Then public goods and externalities. So that is also something that won't take a lot of your time, right? 1 or 2 or maximum 3 or 4 days, and you're all good to go. So now let us move on to macroeconomics. Okay, so again, as we already saw that this is the topic that carries the second highest weightage. So a very important topic again. National income is, I don't think I have to even say anything. Any paper you pick up, any paper, you will see at least two questions from national income. The weightage here on average is mentioned 5. Sometimes it is more, sometimes obviously it is less, but a very important topic. Okay, then we have the technological functions, which is nothing but the consumption functions. Again, this is not the most important topic, I would say, but the weightage here is 3.5, I think, and that is obviously you have to do this, but I would say that you don't have to revise this as many times because once you understand the consumption functions, it is not very difficult. Then business cycles and economic models, this includes both the closed and open economy, and as you can see it carries almost 9 marks on average, that is. So sometimes it can even go further. So obviously you understand how important this is, the ISLM models, the open economy, right? All of those topics are going to be very important for you. Inflation and unemployment, I think that this is one of the most consistently asked topics. I know that the weightage is less, but you will see a question from either inflation or unemployment every year. So you have to cover this, okay, because these are free marks. The idea is that you have to definitely cover what rest of the students are going to cover, okay. So you cannot skip those parts that everyone else is doing, because then for you what is going to happen is that the cutoff is essentially going to be increasing for you because you skipped the parts that everyone got right. So those parts you definitely have to get right, okay. So there is no negotiation in there. So these topics like inflation and employment or all of these topics, so there is no negotiation in this. You cannot leave any of these. You can leave the topics where most of the students face difficulty, where most of the students are going to get the question wrong, okay. So that is what you can skip, like some parts of statistics, like in regression or in hypothesis testing, most of the students are very confused. Maybe their focus a little lesser or something like that, and put your primary focus and revise the topics that you have to revise the highest number of times. Those will be the topics that carry the highest weightage and the topics that are asked time and time again, okay. So moving on, obviously you can see all the subtopics inside of the topics, which is just the entire macroeconomic syllabus for jam here. So moving on, now this is the list of all the questions topic wise and the total marks that macroeconomics was asked for the respective year, okay. So you can look at all the questions topic wise. For example, as I just said, inflation and unemployment is going to be there every year. Look at this table. There is not a single year where inflation and unemployment was not asked. There were 4 questions in 2021. Okay, so similarly, you can see, you can look here. You have to analyze and understand the topics that are repeating the highest number of times. Those are the topics that you have to revise again and again. And if you see a topic that you think like not the entire topic, like let's say that you have growth models, right? So under growth models, you will see that the syllabus mentions the Romer model, the Shumterian growth model, right? So similarly, even the AK models for that matter. So you know that the growth model that is asked time and time again is the Harrod Domer, is the knife edge, is the solo, is the new classical. So that is what you have to understand looking at the questions. That is what you have to put your primary focus on. Right now we are just discussing the weightage. I'm going to make another video on the high impact topics, where inside of these topics I'm going to choose the subtopics and show you what exact subtopics you have to revise again and again and put your main focus on. Okay, so let us move on and let us look at the stats weightage now. Clearly you can see that probability theory is way ahead of the rest of the topics. Now here probability theory is also including random variables and the different parts that we study under the probability part only. Okay, so even the different distributions and all of that, it is still part of probability. So so including all of that, you are going to see that almost 6 marks on average, and even this is less, I would say even 7 to 8 marks is what the probability carries. Okay, so the most important topic in stats, then you can see obviously sampling, on average 4 marks. Okay, hypothesis testing, obviously you know that it is also important. There are some questions here and there every year. So 4 marks, and correlation and regression is, I think, more important than the rest of the two. But correlation and regression is a subject that you have to spend very limited time on, like the different tests. Okay, and I'm going to show you what topics inside of correlation regression are going to be more important for you. Okay, so right now you can obviously see the weightage and look at these topics. This is just the syllabus, you can go through this. Then this is again the list of the questions that were asked every year. So you can clearly see that probability is clearly the favorite topics of the examiner under the stats part. So you can see that central tendencies also there's sometimes sampling, then hypothesis testing, correlation regression in 2025. Look at the number of questions. There were 5 of them. So correlation regression is definitely more important than the other two parts, which are sampling and hypothesis testing, but lesser than probability. Okay. So moving on to the Indian economy weightage. Indian economy, I think that a lot of students face the most trouble in Indian economy. And I cannot relate to them because I have prepared for civil services before. I have found some success. I have cleared some prelims exams, and here and there I have found success. So I do understand Indian economy in a greater depth than the average student who is going to be appearing for JAM. But I also understand the kind of questions that are asked. Okay, so that is why if you just take a book, for example, many people suggest like Romila Thapar or something like that. If you just take a book and start studying for Indian economy, I think that it is very difficult from scratch, because you cannot allot a lot of time to Indian economy, because look at the weightage of like it is around 9 to 10 marks, or max to max there will be 12 marks for which Indian economy is going to be asked. Okay, and if you devote like weeks to Indian economy, that is going to take a toll on your entire preparation. So I'm not just telling you the problem, I also have the solution for you. So what I have done is that I have made short notes from my own notes that I used for my preparation, and I have improved those notes using the previous year questions and trends and all of that. And obviously you just have to go through them once, yeah, and you will know what I'm talking about. And I believe that no question is going to be outside of those notes. The reason I'm saying this, that there is a part of the Indian economy that no one can guess. It will be some random policy, it will be some random new scheme by the government in the new budget or whatever. Okay, so there is one part of Indian economy that no one can guess. But the rest of it, the most of it, like 90% of Indian economy is so basic and so direct that you don't have to do any guesswork. You know what is going to be asked, right? So based on that and based on the trends, I can assure you that once you go through the notes, you will see what I'm talking about. Because look at these topics. What is this? Like 1 mark for India before 1950. So it's like something like it can be all the way from 1793 to 1950. Okay, so sometimes it is about the plantations, sometimes it is about whether the trade went down or up. The statements are very general. So all you need is a chronological order of events that took place between the period. Once you understand the overall history that you obviously should be knowing. You are a citizen of this country, you should know what happened during the British rule. So once you understand the basics, you are going to be able to answer those. Then planning is obviously there. I made a table on the all of the 5-year plans, and it is also a very commonly asked question. Just 1 or 2 marks are there for it. Then the LPG reforms. These are the most important topics under the Indian economy. I would say second most important because banking is slightly more important, but banking also includes a lot of other things. That is why I think that purely Indian economy wise, I think that the LPG reforms of 91 are going to be the most important topics for you. Okay. Then banking, obviously you can see 3 marks, inequalities, poverty, labor market. Okay. So let us look. So you can just take a quick look at the syllabus and let us look at the questions. So obviously you can see the highest weightage was assigned in 24 for 14 marks. Otherwise 6 marks, 9 marks, 10 marks, right? So that is why the time that we can allot to Indian economy is very limited. Personally, I did not allot a lot of time to Indian economy. I just made my notes in the very beginning of my preparation for this from my like UPSC notes or whatever, and then I revised those notes finally in the last month. So that is what I did. But for you guys, if you do not have a base in it, obviously you are going to be having to devote a little more time. But to make your life easier, I have compiled the short notes and you should go through those. Okay. Then finally, we have the maths weightage. Again, the third most, or I would say that at a tie with macro, I think that the second most important subject, with functions at almost 3.5 marks, differential calculus at 5 marks, integration at almost 2 marks, like one question, I think. Every year you can say that one integration 2 marker can be asked. So again, differential equation, difference equations, 2 marks. Linear algebra is, I think, the most important part under the maths part. Okay. Then optimization is also very consistently asked, right? The graphical questions or something or the other from optimization is very, very important and very, very consistently asked. Okay. So again, like if you do not have a background in maths, let's say, and integration is very, very difficult for you, you can handle differential calculus, but integration is obviously the even the level of questions that is being asked in integration is not the easiest. Okay. So if you are facing a lot of problems in integration, you can leave that topic. Okay. But if you think that you can handle it in like 2 to 3 days, you are going to be able to do good, then I think that obviously you should pursue that if the time is limited. Okay. So when I say that, I am only talking to the students who have started their preparation a little later than the other ones. Okay. So obviously you can see the syllabus here, and this is the list of the questions. Now, one very interesting thing that I want to point out is that okay, the weightage in 21 was 25 marks, 22 was 22, 23 was 29 marks, very high. 24 was 14, okay, it dropped to almost half. Something happened in 25. IIT Delhi didn't care about maths at all, obviously because the nature of the paper was very theoretical. I've said this before as well, and because of that theoretical nature, I guess they could not find any theory based questions for these topics for differential calculus. So that is why the weightage for 25 was just 4 marks, and I had allotted almost the second highest time, I would say, like after micro, the highest time that I had allotted to a subject, it was for maths. So obviously that did not go very well for me. But that is the randomness that I'm talking about, right? IIT Delhi examiners, that is what they came up with. Okay, so IIT Bombay could do anything, right? We cannot get like these weightages are just a general idea for you for where to allot your time, right? What subjects to put your time into. Okay, so if the micro part is only asked for like 5 marks next year, so you don't have to come chasing after me, right? Because that is not going to be my fault. I'm just showing you the past trends and an analysis for you to handle your preparation journey a little better. Okay, so these were all of the subject wise weightages. What I am going to be doing in the next video is I am going to show you the high impact topics. Okay, these are going to be topics that you have to revise again and again. These are not just going to be based on the weightages, these are also going to be based on the number of times they have been asked before. So be sure to subscribe to the channel because that video is also going to be coming out very soon. And as I already said that the short notes and the preparation bundle is live right now. Go to www.examlify.com and purchase your course and start revising right now. Rest assured you will be making it into your dream university. You just have to put the right kind of hard work into your journey. Okay? I'm going to see you soon and best of luck.